I guess we are live. It's been a while since I've been here.
Good
I'll have
morning.
to get back into the swing of things. Good morning, everyone. You have...
Logan.
I almost said Britain. Lori.
And Britain.
Apparently I forget my own name. Oh, it has been a while, I guess. So we're going to talk today a little bit about grinding coffee. It's very, very important for a good cup of coffee for it to be ground correctly. I know we touched on some different kind of grinders previously, but we will go into a little more in depth. So sorry if we're saying the same things again. But first of all, grind. So the grind size is just how big or small it is. So coarse you can think of as big, and fine and extra fine are small. So I thought it was interesting, the extra fine, they said it's like powdered sugar. Mm-hmm. So if you can imagine powdered sugar, that's extra fine. That's what you should expect. And then a fine is like sugar, like regular table sugar. So I thought that was really interesting. But the reason that grind is so important is because it determines how fast and how much contact the water has with the coffee. So I thought it was interesting. You're essentially turning water into brown water coffee.
Yeah. So, scientifically, the way we measure this is you can actually take a cup of coffee and measure the total dissolved solids in a cup of coffee. So there is an optimal range, but that equipment is really expensive, and I don't expect you to have that at home. So there is a pretty good way to easily tell whether you're doing things right. So if at home you have a regular coffee maker, if you're grinding your coffee fine, which is more like sugar, it should take between 3 and 4 minutes to brew. If you're grinding it at a medium, it's going to take 5 to 6 minutes. And if you're grinding it coarse, it should take 7 to 8 minutes. So if you're grinding your coffee a certain way and you're seeing a time that's either too short or too long, you can go ahead and adjust your grind a little bit and get within that range, and that'll make it a lot better for you.
So, and I think it's really simplistic, but the way that we teach it is, to think of it as, if you've got coarser grinds, bigger balls of coffee in your thing, then it's going to go through pretty quickly because, obviously if you had a cup full of bouncy balls, it's going to go through that a lot quicker than sand. So I always try to visualize that in my head. If you're going fine, you're trying to get it through sand, so obviously it's going to be slower, but it's going to extract more of the coffee. Where if it's coarser, it's going through bouncy balls.
Well, the reason we're talking about grinding coffee in the first place is that we really recommend that you grind your coffee at home. It's going to give you the freshest cup of coffee. They have many, many grinders available on the market. We're going to go through a couple different types, but if you want a great cup of coffee, you should be grinding your own coffee.
Because again, oxygen is what destroys the flavor of coffee. So if you can imagine, if it's a whole bean, then it can only get to the outside area to degrade the flavor, and the minute you grind it, it can get all that surface area, and it can just destroy the flavor so much quicker. So the optimal cup of coffee is if you grind it right before and do whole bean.
And the SCA recommends that you don't let ground coffee sit for 2 minutes. It starts degrading after 2 minutes. So you really want to grind your coffee and then immediately brew it. You don't want to grind it the night before. And then let it sit overnight.
We don't want to grind it for a week or,
even for a day, really, sitting outside. And, even with chips or whatever that gets stale, especially in the humid weather, you don't want to be doing that to coffee. Obviously, always keep it protected, airtight container, in a darker ambient.
Well, that's when we package ground coffee, we have to package it fairly quickly, and we package it into bags that don't let any additional air into the bag.
Yep, there's a one-way valve so that what comes out of
carbon
CO2. So when coffee's ground, it releases a bunch of CO2, and we actually use that and nitrogen in our packaging to flush out all of the oxygen in our bags. So if you see a puffy bag, that's actually a really good thing because it means it has CO2
It means you're really fresh.
Yep.
It's really fresh.
Yep.
So, we try not to make too many puffy bags, but sometimes it's not like canned products where it's bad. Do you know what I mean? Where it's got
it's actually a
bacteria
really
or whatever.
good
It's
thing.
actually
I've actually heard that about lettuce and produce at the grocery store too, that the puffy bags are actually more fresh than the deflated bags.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
Because they haven't released all the gases out of the bag yet.
Okay. That's really interesting. So you want to tell us a little bit? We're going to go, obviously, burr and...
Yeah, so why don't you hit 1 on the keyboard right there.
Oh, you've got a presentation?
The other one.
I feel so
This one?
fancy.
No,
This
yeah,
one.
that one right there. So this is a grinder you guys have all probably seen before. It's called a blade grinder. It just kind of whips around a blade.
It chops them up.
And smashes the beans. So I know these are cheap. They're only like $30, but
I've seen them
Or
for like
less, like
10 or
10.
15.
yeah, please just spend a little bit
Morning,
more
Regan.
and get something that is not this,
Morning.
because it's not going to give
Greetings
you a
from St. Clair
consistent grind.
Shores. Oh,
And it's going to be really hard to dial in your cup of coffee when you have zero control over how fine or coarse it is.
Well,
and
it's
if
like
it's
taking a weed whacker to your yard.
yeah, it's
it ends up a little uneven, a little
and
crazy.
then it's not only that it's chopping it up, but it's creating a lot of friction and heat,
Yeah.
which isn't great for coffee either.
yeah, it helps it
Heat and
oxidize
static
faster.
aren't great elements for coffee.
I mean, if this is your only option, it'll do. But it's not a great option.
Yeah. So
and I mean, if you're just buying it cheap for whatever, but you're really, I mean, the really sad thing is you're buying really nice, good coffee if you're buying it from us, and then to grind it in such a haphazard way.
I would
haphazard way.
rather you see you buy ground coffee and keep it in an airtight container than use one of these.
Pre-ground would be better because at least we're grinding it on our big grinders.
Go ahead and hit 4.
And you should have a cold coffee this afternoon. I actually bought, well, no one's watching. I bought ice cream for everybody for this afternoon here at work because it's supposed to be
Well, and we have
100
our
degrees.
little ice machine now, so we can make our cold
We're so
coffee
fancy.
in the office.
So fancy.
So this is going to be the other type of grinder. This is going to be a flat burr grinder. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but there's actually all these knife edges, and then 2 of these plates will get pushed together and the beans will get pushed in between them, and it cuts them instead of just whipping them around. So this is a good solution. We use these a lot in our warehouse even. This is an industrial sized one, obviously, but they're really consistent and they don't build up a ton of heat. They still build up a little bit of heat. But this is a really good solution. So you can buy flat burr grinders for your house, and they're a little more expensive than the blade grinders, but they're not super expensive.
No, they've honestly, we have some listed on our website, so go check them out. But they're pretty affordable now. When you're considering looking at grinders, it's usually only like $10 or $15 more than a blade grinder.
Yep, but these do wear out, so you do have to change them. But it's really not a big deal. And this is as cheap as I would go with something for your house.
Yes, Crystal, you can come to work with us.
And have all the coffee you can drink, Crystal. That's good.
So go ahead and hit 2 for me.
But I'll see you in a couple weeks.
So here's a picture. It shows you kind of the path of the beans for a flat burr grinder and a conical burr.
I'm impressed, Logan. I feel like I'm going back to school. You didn't do this in school.
So the higher end grinders that you can buy for your home are going to be conical burr. That's not something we use in the industry, but for like espresso, we use them in stores. And then for at your home, this is the best way to grind coffee is with a conical burr.
Yeah, how much are espresso machines in the stores though? $600 or $1,200?
The machine?
The espresso grinder.
Oh, they're like, I don't know, 600
yeah,
or something.
they're very expensive.
So, conical burrs are going to create less heat because it's not using pressure to force the bean in and out. It's just slowly cutting it as it uses gravity to bring it down through. So this is going to create the least heat, and it's going to be super consistent, which is what we definitely want to see. Conical burrs can be pretty expensive for your house. We have some cheaper ones that I think are like $120 or something.
Honestly,
but they're great for home
bad.
use. I mean, because for commercial use, obviously you need a whole different grade.
Yeah.
Because you're continually grinding. I mean, hundreds of pounds of coffee.
Yeah, so we have some that are pretty inexpensive, but I mean, I'd really like a brand called Baratza. Those are about $280 for their cheapest one. So if you want to get bougie, I highly recommend Baratza.
We actually, our coffee grinder here is huge. Like it's 15 feet tall or something.
Yeah.
And it's water
it's probably
cooled.
taller than that.
Yeah.
It's water
Go
cooled.
ahead and hit 3 for me.
Oh, do you have ours?
Yeah, so basically the way
Hi,
we
Arthur.
grind all of our coffee in the coffee industry is basically giant drums. They're about 5 feet long, and they're full of spiraled knife blades. So the coffee gets pushed in between the top 2 rollers, and it brings it down to a certain size. And then the bottom 2 rollers bring it down even smaller. And that way we're exactly consistent. Like all of our coffee is going to be pretty much the same size. And since it's water cooled in those drums, water runs through them. So it's cool. It like gets it down to 50 degrees, even if it's 90 out. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Because we do not want to roast the coffee any more than it has already been roasted. Yep. So it's really important to keep those cool. We also, we have sets of screens, and that's how we calibrate the grinders, because the grinders do need to be calibrated. So we have to go make sure that the grind level we expect is fitting in the correct screen.
Yep.
Because they do wear it out over time, and then they're very costly to replace. But I think we have to replace them this year.
Next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's real expensive. Every 3 years they have to get replaced. But we like to stay on that so that the coffee is good for you. Because obviously
it's very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I thought this was interesting. I never thought about this.
You can go ahead and
is there a fourth one?
No, it was just removing.
That the grind consistency is so important. It's compared to something like table salt. Well, if you add and dissolve salt in a glass of water, it's just salt. Mm-hmm. But coffee is so much more complex. Coffee is so much more complex that it's so different. And it's even more important because all of the tastes are extracted at different rates, know. And if it's under constructed, you'll know.
The grind of salt is actually very important when you're baking.
But still, when you grind it, it's still salt.
Bread.
Like it's one component. It's the salt flavor going down, which coffee is even more complex, which I never thought about it, because it's not just one taste. It's all these tastes and flavors that you're trying to appropriate through. And that's why if you do use a burr and you get a bigger chunk of some flavor, you're going to change the flavor profiles profoundly by doing that. So I thought I hadn't really thought about that contrasted to something that's a simple compound.
Yeah.
Super important that you get the right salt, but it's still you're doing salt flavor.
Not really though. Like when you're baking bread, it's really important that you use coarse salt because you don't want necessarily the whole bread to be salty. Mm-hmm. You want like little pockets. Yeah. So it matters how it cooks into it. It's kind of different.
But it's still a single taste
You're not trying to extract so much
all these
oil
compounds.
And it's not like a volatile organic substance like coffee is. It's like as soon as you grind it, as soon as you roast it, there's already compounds that are coming off of it and you're losing them. Yeah. So you really want to get to it as quickly as possible. And that happens faster after it's ground.
And then acidity versus...
another good way to tell, like, if you're over or under extracting coffee with your grind, is just by the taste. Mm-hmm. So, if your coffee tastes, like, acidic and salty, and you can feel it, like, in the back of your mouth.
Like that hit,
Yeah, that's probably under extracted, so you need to make your coffee a little finer, or you need to add more coffee. If it's, like, all in the front and it's really bitter, that's going to be over extracted. And you can just grind it a little coarser or use less, and that should help you with your issue.
And so that could be why, some people get our coffee for years and years and years, and they're like, it tastes different, and we taste it sometimes, and we're like, no, it tastes the same. Obviously coffee's going to taste a little bit different depending on crops
season
and
to
stuff.
season.
But if you're if you're grinding it yourself, and your burrs are going back, you're going to get a different cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So you do need to, make sure that you've got sharp burrs or
for
blades.
those mouth flavors, if you're having a hard time telling what they are with coffee, tea is a really good, like, kind of over dramatized way to get those. Like, pull the bag early and you'll be able to feel that acid on your mouth, or let it sit for a long time, and then when you go drink the coffee, you'll be able to tell a little bit stronger what you're looking for.
So, Reagan, you personally will not be able to sharpen the blades? Or Regan?
Yes, it's Regan.
You cannot sharpen the blades personally, but a lot of the home grinders, you can buy replacement blades for pretty cheap, like super cheap. Another good way to keep them sharp longer is because coffee has so much oil in it, you got to take apart the grinder, like take the top off and just clean out the burrs with the toothbrush and get all the oils off.
Yeah.
Like even we don't sharpen our own blades. Like we have to buy new ones and send them back to get them resharpened, because it's just the geometry is very specific, and if you mess it up at all, it's going to make your motor work harder, and then you're going to blow out your grinder. So.
And I think it's really important, though, because we talk about grinding and how important it is. And let's not miss water. If you have bad water, you will never get good coffee. I mean, you need to have good water to get good coffee. It's the core component of it.
Do you recommend using, like, filtered water, or what kind of water do you recommend using?
So if you... It's really hard to say, because there's a lot of coffee shops nowadays that actually filter out everything and then put certain minerals at certain percentages back into the water because it enhances taste. If you can't be sure about your water and what's in it, I would start with like distilled water and try that, and compare it to what you're getting out of your sink or through a filter, and just see what you like better.
But you don't really want to filter everything. Most water
No, you don't want to
okay.
filter everything.
I mean, if you drink your water and I'm so picky about water.
Yeah, it's a really hard question to answer.
If it's got iron or stuff in it.
Yeah.
But if you don't, I mean, everybody should know the quality of their water pretty much.
So how do you feel about coffee machines that have the grinders built into the top?
That grind it like every day in the morning.
Yeah.
So... they can be fine, but typically those type of machines, they're going to cut costs somewhere, obviously, and that's usually going to be in the grinder part. And then like the mechanics of everything is going to be really hard to fix by yourself. So I'd honestly recommend, like, Bunn makes really great brewers that don't have grinders built in, and then getting a grinder separate.
Some of them are decent though, but they are costly. I mean, you're talking at least $400 or $500.
Yeah, and for that price,
for a decent one,
you could get the best Baratza grinder they have, which is my favorite brand, and then a Bunn where you can control the temperature of the water, and that's only going to be like $380.
Okay.
So at that point,
and if your, parts go bad inside the grinder, you might be replacing the whole machine.
Yeah, you're gonna be replacing the whole machine. They don't really
it's an automatic thing. Like, it's when it's gone, it's gone. But I think it's really important too to say that, because we talked about the bitterness and whatever. If you're taking a Kenyan or very acidic coffee, you're not going to be able to grind your way into a different taste profile.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, coffees have specific taste profiles, and you want to enhance that taste profile, but it's not going to... You can't grind your way into a different taste profile.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you could. It would just be a very bad one.
Well, it's not what the coffee's intended to do.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, really just look at the time. Like the time guides I said at the beginning of this video. If it's taken 10 minutes to brew, there's obviously something going on. And if it's taken 2 minutes, there's something going on. So
if you have any questions too, feel free to email us. Logan might be able to give us some insight into what's going on.
Yeah, if you email our customer support, I get questions pretty much every morning from Janelle, so I can definitely help you figure some stuff out.
Yeah.
So I hope that helped you understand how important it is and how it affects your coffee. Thank you for the slideshow. That was
that
unexpected
was
and really nice. An overachiever right here. I feel like I had my notes.
Honestly, it was just easier than taking apart 5 grinders.
The different grinders. And anything on the home front that I know Mackinac Island Fudge is going to be live really soon, right?
Yeah, he's putting labels on it right now, so it
I
should
will
be
get it
done.
live
So
today.
Mackinac Island Fudge 12 ounce will be
live today.
Yep, whole bean and ground.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Well, all the grinds for us.
And Logan and I actually are going to Wisconsin tomorrow to look at new K-Cup machines. So we're really excited because I'm going to tell you, I mean, the single servings, the whole revolution, it was very interesting to see. Just I thought that environmentally people would go away from that, but the convenience factor is so high, and really the waste factor is so much less if you can make a single cup.
I mean, really, you guys are just buying so many.
You guys are buying so many.
Our
we can't even keep up.
We can't keep up.
We can't keep up. So we're actually looking at new machines that have some really cool features on them, like they squeeze the coffee to make sure that the lid seals.
So it actually has a thing that pokes the filter and measures the resistance to make sure the filter will never leak, and then it squeezes the cup after it's sealed. That way you guys will hopefully never get a bad cup again. I know it happens sometimes, but we're making sure that we're getting we're making sure that we get this machine.
We're going to get an really excellent machine because I think it's like up to almost 40% of sales are single servings.
And continuing to flavor each cup individually to make sure that you have a perfect cup of coffee
every time.
Very important.
Yep. So we're still going to stick with the same flavoring method. We'll just be able to do multiple flavors at once and do a bunch of cool stuff.
And we'll be able to do more limited run flavors too. Mm-hmm. So it's going to give us some flexibility in that. So we're really excited about the...
Yeah, we should be able to do really small runs of specific flavors. And who knows, maybe it'll lead
We're on a single lane right now that's kind of clunky.
Yeah.
Kim, who runs it, is an angel. She's
It's
wonderful.
The most frustrating machine on the planet.
We ran it one day and the next day I gave her a raise.
Yeah, literally at the first day. I'm like stomping away from her. She's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "It just won't work."
So we're looking at possibly a 4-lane machine. So that will be really exciting. And the lids are done a little bit differently. So hopefully, like I know we're out of Michigan Cherry Decaf.
Yeah.
Currently, it just takes us so long. There's only one provider that can get the lids the way that we need them for that machine. So it will help our nimbleness.
Yeah, and the lids, I don't know if you buy K-Cups anywhere else, but they're more of like the foil-looking ones.
Yeah.
I think we'll be switching to more of that style soon when we get a new machine.
That's exciting. So. I really like those.
Yeah, they seal a little bit better. I like them. And then who knows what the future could bring. That machine could do anything, so...
Yeah, we could have. Could you imagine? I mean, this is my hope someday, is like to give your mom K-Cups with her picture on them or something.
Oh my gosh, of course, that's your goal.
No, I actually...
Mimi's blend or something.
I genuinely think that's in the works.
I think
that is in the works possibly.
But how fun would that be?
They have big dreams.
And Brittany has to execute them. So she's like, no.
Yeah, putting it in the universe.
But...
no, it's exciting, especially where we're a pretty small company, so to be able to invest in a big piece of equipment is a huge
big
thing for us, and it's really exciting.
And really, from all your support, especially through COVID, I'm continuing to buy coffee. We really do appreciate, because it lets us be able to invest with the supply chain issues, just to really invest in something that will make it so much easier for us, and to make sure that you guys, can have all the flavors that you want, because we love giving you guys variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 1-lane machine makes that a little harder though. So
it does. It does. But I love that we just pipette the flavor in every single cup. I mean, that has improved, I think, the consistency across the board so much.
Yep.
So we appreciate you.
Thanks for
tuning in.
Thank you very much. Hope you learned something today, and have a wonderful day, and stay cool.